Hello everyone, and today we're going to take a look at the top 10 original Xbox games. So yeah, just to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the original Xbox, I thought we'd take a look back at the old console. And it was one of the best consoles of the 6th generation. Certainly it did introduce online gaming to the masses on console. That was really the biggest highlight. Although there were some fantastic games that were highlights, and we're going to take a look at them in this video. Okay, so at number 10, we've got Doom 3. Now, Doom 3 is here just because of it was an amazing technical achievement for the original Xbox that this version ran at all. It is inferior, of course, to the PC version, but I think it's just here for a fantastic technical achievement. This was Doom 3. It wasn't really downsized. I mean, the visuals were downgraded, but it's still a perfectly playable version of Doom 3. And again, this was re-released on subsequent consoles. This is the Series X or the Xbox One version running on a Series X that you're looking at. But this was, yeah, quite impressive visually. There was also a co-op campaign. It was available. Didn't have split screen co-op. It was Systems Link or Xbox Live only. So that's what that added to Doom 3. But here it was just an impressive technical achievement for the original Xbox, and I think deservedly it deserves to be on this list. It's still a decent playable version of Doom 3. And Doom 3 wasn't everyone's cup of tea. People said it was too slow. It was too much like a survival horror game. But I like survival horror games, and I thought Doom 3 was okay. It was different, very very different from even the classic Dooms and the modern Dooms. You've got this little awkward phase in the middle. Doom 3 is where they did try to change things. But anyway, the original Xbox version is a pretty decent version. Maybe check it out from a collector standpoint, but certainly worth owning on an original Xbox. Okay, at number 9, we've got Conquer Live and Reloaded, and this is a remake of the N64 game, Conquer's Bad Fur Day. It was developed by Rare. I think it was the second game Rare ever made for Microsoft. Grabbed by the Ghoulies was the first, which wasn't great, to be honest, Grabbed by the Ghoulies, but they did the remake of Conquer Live and Reloaded. It did feature Xbox Live multiplayer. You had like a weird sort of World War II storming the trenches of Normandy beaches where you could fight against Nazi teddy bears. You could fight against them. And it was pretty interesting. It's quite a fun little multiplayer mode. You did have the full single-player campaign. It's not the best version of the game. The N64 game is uncensored because they do censor it. The Great and Mighty Pooh's song is censored in the Xbox version, which is not the same. It just takes a lot away from it. So if you're looking to play the campaign, then the N64 version is probably better. More expensive though. Because the Xbox version is pretty cheap. You can pick it up cheaply for the Xbox, and it is compatible with modern Xbox consoles as well, your Xbox One and Series X if you want to check it out. Sadly, Xbox Live multiplayer is no longer there, so you have to play with bots, hence the footage. But yeah, Conquer Live and Reloaded, should we say, is a decent game, worth checking out, but if you want to play the campaign, the N64 version is the better choice though. At number 8, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This was an interesting Xbox exclusive published by EA, and sadly we'll never see it on modern consoles, I guess, due to licensing issues. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting action game. It did feature all of the cast from the TV series. You got like Sarah Michelle Gellar was voicing Buffy, and again, everyone that's there from Buffy is there. Don't confuse it with Chaos Bleeds, which was the multi-platform sequel to this, which wasn't as good as this, but it is an interesting sort of action beat 'em up game. And it looked pretty good at the time as well. It launched around the original Xbox's launch time. I think it was a 2002 it came out, so a few months after the Xbox's release. And for me, this is one of the underrated gems on the original Xbox. It is fairly cheap, and you can find it fairly easily today, but sadly not compatible with modern consoles. So you'd have to own an original Xbox to play it, but definitely worth collecting, because it's one of those games where you look at it and think, oh, it's just another licensed game. And there was a lot of licensed TV show games around that time period, which weren't as good as this. This is one of the best ones, so you should definitely check it out. Again, visually, it's aged not too badly. You can see it in 4K on the emulator now, but again, it's still worth your time. The gameplay holds up pretty well. If you're a fan of 3D beat 'em up games, then this one holds up pretty well. It's got a nice combat system in there. Okay, so at number 7, we have Midtown Madness 3. Sad that this can't come to modern consoles. So this was developed by DICE. Yeah, that DICE that make Battlefield and the modern Star Wars Battlefront games. Yeah, so they used to make racing games initially exclusively for PC, but Midtown Madness 3 was again came to the Xbox, and it was quite an interesting. You got a few cities like Washington and Paris, and again this was a good looking game. Sadly, it won't come to modern consoles because it features licensed cars. I guess they're the issue with bringing it. That's the licensing issue that they face. They would have to get the licenses again for all of the cars. Whether it's worth it, who knows? But yeah, Microsoft did publish this, and it's an interesting little arcade racer. I used to love just driving about in free driving mode. Again, a good looking game at the time as well. I loved the car models, they were fantastic. And the cities looked realistic as well. They had realistic looking cities as well. I like the way the pedestrians would wander about with Xbox boxes. That was cool. Like they'd bought Xboxes, all these pedestrians wandering about. And it was a fully rendered 3D city, and it was a nice looking game. It's a nice looking arcade racer. The other ones on the PC are also worth checking out as well. At number 6, we have The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. Technically a movie license game, although it did have its own self-contained story. It does serve as, I think it's a prequel to Pitch Black. It is a prequel actually, because you find out how Riddick gets his eye shine in this. So it is a prequel to Pitch Black and the Chronicles of Riddick movie that came out around the same time as this game. Escape from Butcher Bay, of course, is a prison escape game. It is a stealth kind of brawling first person game. It does have some shooting in it as well. There is a bit of gunplay in it, but it is mostly a stealth brawling first person shooter. You do a lot of fist fights, a lot of stealth. You could use shivs as well in it. You got to escape the various sort of levels of the prison as you move further on in the prison. And it is quite a good game actually. And of course you've got Vin Diesel, who again reprises his role as Richard B. Riddick, who is again tasked with escaping from Butcher Bay, which is why it's called Escape from Butcher Bay. But it is a really good game. Visually, it was quite stunning at the time. It was another real technical powerhouse for the original Xbox, similar to how Doom 3 was. This game is pretty decent actually. I think it was very different from a lot of other games. You very rarely got like a first person stealth action adventure type game. But yeah, this is a pretty decent game. Again, licensing issues just prevent it from coming to Xbox. It was re-released on PC as well, and Xbox 360. If you got Assault on the Dark Athena, there's another Chronicles of Riddick game. You did get Escape from Butcher Bay included with it, so you could check it out on the Xbox 360. As well, if you wanted a more enhanced visuals. But the original Xbox, this was exclusive to the original Xbox, and again, one of my favorite games from that era. The atmosphere is fantastic, and you could use Riddick's eye shine ability to see in the dark. It really helped out with the stealth as well. At number 5, we've got Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not the crappy EA one, but the good one, released in 2005. Or at least that's the version I call it. Or Battlefront 2 Classic, as some people call it. Again, this was the best version of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not because it looked the best and it ran the best, but it did feature Xbox Live multiplayer. Again, you can play this on modern Xbox consoles. Sadly, the Xbox Live functionality has been turned off for all original Xbox games, so you can't play it online. This was an amazing game. I loved things like the Galactic Conquest was incredible. You had the Heroes mode where you could play as different heroes like villains, Darth Vader, Palpatine, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You could play as them and run around with swinging your lightsaber wildly at people. And it was an excellent game. The amount of content that you got in this game was insane. You had like a campaign mode, you had the Galactic Conquest, even just offline single player content. There was so much of it. I mean, that's what made 2015's Battlefront so poor in comparison. The multiplayer was excellent as well. The online multiplayer was pretty damn good. It wasn't the main focus of the game, but it was a fantastic way to play it. The best console way because it was available on PC as well. But again, the game ran really well. It looked good. And it's Battlefront 2. It was the good one, where you got all the modes, all the characters, no loot boxes. Those were the golden days. And the Xbox certainly was the sort of the best console for Star Wars games, certainly. And this was one of the best versions. Certainly, I lost a lot of hours. I never really bothered with my Xbox 360 because I was still playing Battlefront 2 and another game on this list that we'll come to next. Well, you knew it was going to be here, didn't you? Number 4 is, of course, Time Splitters Future. Perfect. Again, like Battlefront 2, this was the best version of the game. Again, it ran the best, it looked the best on the original Xbox. Just recently, also available on modern Xbox consoles as well. So you can check out, once again, the Xbox Live multiplayer is disabled, which is unfortunate because this game was so much fun. There was just so many modes. The campaign was good. There was so many characters, there was so many challenge modes, the arcade mode, the online multiplayer, the map maker was fantastic. The campaign is hilariously fun as well. I love the little jokes that they made in it. Fantastic humour. Pity this was the final Time Splitters game. Hopefully we'll get another one in the future. But it's sort of embarrassing to go back and look at these games from 2005, that kind of era, and you just see how much content you get in these games. No DLC, no season passes, no battle passes, none of that BS. It's just the amount of content you get on the disc is weird. You look at modern games and you see cut content, you see things that are missing features at launch. And you just go in and you kind of pine for the good old days of gaming. Again, this was the golden age of gaming, I feel. I feel this generation was, and Time Splitters kind of typifies that with its amount of content there. Playing it recently again, I love it. I still love it to this day. Again, playing it on the Series X, and again, it's still an amazing game. I love the art style. I love the way it scales up as well. I love how it looks. I love how it runs. Again, similar to Battlefront 2, it was amazing the multiplayer modes that you could have. The custom map maker was amazing as well. Yeah, this is one of my favorite original Xbox games, and one of my favorite games from that generation as well. Alright, number 3, we've got Project Gotham Racing 2. This was my favorite racing game on the original Xbox. Once again, cannot come to modern Xbox consoles because of the car licensing. That's just sad. It did feature a lot of licensed cars. You had Ferraris, Porsches, everything you could expect there. And it had license, I don't know if maybe the license for the cities as well. You had like Florence, Edinburgh, Chicago, Sydney. They were all photorealistically recreated. At the time, this game blew you away. The original came out at launch for the Xbox, and it was an amazing visual game as well, but this version just blew me away with the visuals at the time as well. I think it came out around 2003, 2004 time. It came out around that time, and it really did blow away. It blew me away. It was different from Forza. Forza was there on the original Xbox. I suppose you could argue it is an arcade racer, and it did feature not only races, but you had things like checkpoint challenges, you had one-on-one races, you had the cone challenge, you had the top speed challenge. If you want a modern equivalent of this game, check out the Forza Horizon games. That's the closest modern equivalent. Again, sad that PGR, Bizarre Creations, left Microsoft and then went to Disney, and they came out with Blur, and Blur kind of failed, and Bizarre Creations went out of business. That's unfortunate. because they really made some excellent racing games. But again, it's modern equivalent, I guess. That's why Microsoft don't bother with the Project Gotham games, because they've got the Forza Horizon games, which kind of fill the same idea, although they're open world. Project Gotham wasn't open world, but it just fulfills that gap in the market for those who like an arcade racer that's not a full-on sim as the Forza Motorsport games are. But you should check this one out. Has a lot of modes again, a lot of vehicles, a lot of cars in the game, good variety of tracks. Once again, and again, a game from that generation, which generally outdoes modern games with the amount of content that it had available. And the cars handle really well as well. They're quite easy to drive. Again, it's not a simulation. It is an arcade racer. It's designed as a pick up and play racer, and it really does well at that. I think I like the kudos system with the points. You get points for like drifting and driving clean and overtaking cars. That was pretty cool. And again, the cities, it is a city racing game, hence why it's called Project Gotham. But I love the cities. Again, they're very nicely recreated. Edinburgh was in Forza Horizon 4, but I liked Edinburgh. I liked the fact you could look into the shops going along Princess Street, and it was the actual shops that were there. They were photorealistic. I love that. I love doing that in the replay, because you've been down Princess Street a few times. And yeah, it was realistic at the time to see all the shops there. I always thought that was pretty cool visually. In the game, the cars drove really well as well, and the game ran amazing and looked amazing as well. Okay, at number 2, we have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And I know what you're thinking. I prefer KOTOR 2 to KOTOR 1. And that is true, but I think KOTOR 2 on the original Xbox, it's unfinished. That's the problem with it. You can never get the finished version. KOTOR 1 was finished, and it ran better on the original Xbox than it did on the PC. For KOTOR 2, I would recommend the PC version, just because you can get the mod, the restored content mod, which again will help finish it and fix some of the bugs. The Xbox version doesn't have any updates because it was never Xbox Live aware, which was a shame. Again, this was developed by BioWare. BioWare had some awesome Xbox games. They had that and Jade Empire. It just didn't make the list, Jade Empire. I never liked the combat in Jade Empire, that's why it didn't make the list. But yeah, Knights of the Old Republic was the best Star Wars game on the consoles, and probably still the best Star Wars game of all time, I would say. Again, it is set 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire, and it was an interesting choices matter RPG. It did give BioWare kind of carte blanche to write the story however they wanted. They weren't constrained by the movies, the Star Wars movies, so you could have the characters, make drastically different decisions, and again, your decisions had consequences. It also has one of the best reveals in gaming history, up there with the best reveal in movie history with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. It does have one of those great plot twists in history there of gaming. The story is excellent. The combat's okay. I like the combat. I still like it. I think if you're going to get this, again, it is available on modern Xbox consoles. It is enhanced for Xbox One X and Xbox Series consoles. So definitely check it out. The PC version does have issues and still has bugs that have never been fixed to this day, whereas the Xbox version was a lot better in terms of the bugs. You don't have the constant missing bugs where you would always roll a miss for your abilities. That still plagues the PC version to this day. The original Xbox version just doesn't have that, and I think it is still perfectly playable to this day. I know there's a remake coming out. It's coming exclusively to PlayStation 5, which is a bit weird because the original was an Xbox console exclusive, at least. I always find that a bit strange how things have changed there. But yeah, the original KOTOR, it's an amazing story. It's worth it for the story alone. Visually, I still like it. I like its art style. I think it's aged fine. It's fine if you play it at high resolution, which you can do on PC and you can do it on the modern Xbox consoles. But definitely a must-own game for the original Xbox. It was one of the best RPG. The Xbox had some decent RPGs. It's not known primarily for its RPGs, but this one is definitely one of the best still since it came out. And definitely you should check this out again. Try it on the modern Xbox consoles as well before the remake comes out. Hopefully the remake doesn't butcher it. But anyway, definitely this is so close for this between this and what number one was. All right, here we are, number one, the best Xbox game, and it has to be Halo. It just has to be because it was tough between this and KOTOR because I really love both of them, and it's difficult to choose between them. They're very different games. KOTOR, you could argue, maybe is the best Xbox game, but without Halo, there would be no Xbox. Halo is the flagship, it is the brand. Could have put Halo 2 on this list, but I thought Halo 2 wasn't as good. I mean, apart from the online multiplayer, I preferred the campaign to the original Halo. Again, Halo was the game that made me buy an Xbox, and it has to be number one. Again, the campaign mode is excellent. The co-op mode, how much fun we had in co-op, playing split-screen co-ops. The split-screen multiplayer was also fun, but the amount of fun we had getting out of the levels, pushing the Warthog all the way down to the bottom of the silent cartographer level, that was a fun day. Just using grenades, because the Warthog was invincible, and getting your Warthog to the top of the level, getting out of the levels, that was just so much fun. The campaign also is fantastic. It's excellently paced. I love the just the mission design. I love the enemy AI. The visuals at the time for 2001 were fantastic. The multiplayer was fun to play with. You could only play it either systems link. You play 8-player if you had 2 Xboxes and a LAN cable, which we did. It was also easier to take an Xbox to LAN parties or take an Xbox controller to a LAN party. So that was the kind of game that really kicked off for me the being the console multiplayer. It was the good follow-up to the N64 multiplayer games like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. That's what we were playing previously. But it was nice to have the systems link. I think that was really good because you have 8 players, 2 TVs, 2 Xboxes, 2 4-player split screen. That was amazing at the time. I thought that was incredible. And you had, of course, the excellent campaign. We've already made a whole video on Halo and why it was awesome. 20 years later, it's still awesome. It's still my favorite game in the franchise, is the original. I don't think they ever topped it, to be honest with you, because they made a lot of changes, and I think they made changes for the worst to the campaign. The multiplayer, yeah, you could argue it did get better in the more recent Halo games, but, you know, here we are 20 years later, and it's still going strong, Halo. I mean, a lot of these games on this list have gone. I mean, we will make an honourable mention on the list to Star Wars Obi-Wan, which is one of my favourite Star Wars games. Where the hell has that been, Microsoft, in the backwards compatibility stakes? You know, I love that game. Every other Star Wars game, and there was so many Star Wars games to put on this list, to be honest. We could have put Republic Commando, we could have put KOTOR 2, but in the end, I just left it to 2, because otherwise this would have just been Halo and Star Wars games. 2 Halo games, and the rest would have been Star Wars games. So I kept it to 2 Star Wars games, and I just went for the 1 Halo game. We went for the original Halo. Still, to this day, my favourite Xbox game. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me. So you can let me know in the comments what you think, any games that we've missed out on the top 10. I have explained about the Star Wars games. I just picked 2, and 2 of my favourites, I believe, there. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.